And we're starting off our list with a traveler who has some pretty bad news for animal lovers out there. John, a self-proclaimed time traveler, claims to have actually come from the year 4000 and traveled back in time with some interesting details about the future. Apparently in the year 4000, technology will have advanced to such an extent that artificial intelligence dominates most of the world. He describes a world where AI merges with daily human activity, leading to a new era where biological and artificial entities coexist almost seamlessly. Seems like this is going to happen way sooner than the year 4000 though. One of the more specific claims John makes is about the way corporations will evolve in the future. He states that all companies will be owned by a single mega corporation that uses AI to manage its operations. This corporation supposedly designs, builds, and controls robots that perform nearly all types of jobs, pushing humans out of the workforce. According to John, the result is a society where human labor is no longer necessary and robots handle most tasks. John also notes that these advancements in AI and robotics lead to changes in the environment and the social structure of society. He also states that pets like cats and dogs won't be a thing anymore, and that all birds were destroyed in order to prevent them from colliding with flying cars. Aren't there a lot more things we could collide with, like driving normal cars, than like up in the sky? Why don't we destroy everything in our path, already? I don't know. That's an odd one. Next up, we have a man named William Taylor who has some pretty wild things to say about the future, and interesting side note, he also passed a lie detector test, apparently. Now, I know lie detector tests aren't always foolproof, but not many people who claim to have traveled to the future have gone through any kind of test like that. So if that is true about the test, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. In 2018, a man named William Taylor claimed to have been part of a British intelligence project in which he traveled all the way to the year 8973. And he said that things were, or will be, actually pretty good in the distant future, so good in fact that he didn't even want to leave and come back to this time. Now, the only thing is that humans won't exist anymore, not the way we do currently anyway. Instead, a species of human-robot hybrids will populate the Earth, but no disease or crime will plague it, and these beings experience eternal life. Taylor also revealed some other intriguing information, like how time travel has actually been used by world governments since 1981. The technology was apparently reverse engineered from alien spacecrafts. A TikTok channel called Real TikTok Time Traveler started posting some pretty outlandish videos in 2022, mainly because this anonymous user claimed to be a time traveler. Is a channel the correct term when it comes to TikTok, by the way? Page? Like, do you say just like user? I'm very out of touch. I don't know where I am. Help me. But they've posted tons of videos making all kinds of claims about what the future holds, most of it pretty dark, because that's what people just love gobbling up. They claim to be from the year 2236 and mostly post about events that will be playing out over the next 10 years. Some of their standouts include, in 2025, scientists discovering signs of life on 2 different planets that are proven to be more advanced than humans, and a meteor coming down to Earth in 2034 that will wipe out half of America. So look forward to that. Alaric goes by the handle Radiant Time Traveler on TikTok and has shared some pretty grave warnings about the future. He claims to be from the year 2671, and in his latest video, he lets the fine people of the internet know about some of the notable stuff that's going to go down in the remainder of 2024. Keep May 15th marked down in your calendar, because an alien race is going to show up on Earth and transport 10,000 people to another planet. But aliens coming to Earth isn't going to catch our attention for long though, because May 27th marks the beginning of the next American Civil War, which will then lead to the outbreak of World War III. But don't be too worried about your hands or feet being blown off in the war, because less than a month after the fighting kicks off, a new fruit will be discovered that helps regrow lost limbs. Also in June, the very first human-chimp hybrid will be created, and June 19th also sees a new type of storm form called a mind storm, which causes people to lose their minds and go on violent rampages. As if World War III isn't enough already. Now we have a 28 days later situation on our hands. But the best part of it all, summer. It's really gonna end with a bang. when real-life dragons are discovered in the Rocky Mountains. They fly, they breathe fire, and they even speak English. Yes, specifically English. Sorry to everyone else in the world. You'll just have to watch these dragons fly around while we chat with them. Next on the list we have Darkness Time Traveler. Now, our boy Darkness has a pretty ominous bio on his TikTok channel / page / whatever you call it, reading, "Darkness is coming. The Shadow Network is almost here," from the year 2858. The Shadow Network? Jankies. I'm guessing that's not just a TV station that shows clips of shadows 24/7. In Darkness's latest video, they claim that the solar eclipse that just went down last week was actually a smokescreen for a bunch of alien beings to fly down to Earth on meteors, obscured from our view because of the eclipse. Because apparently we wouldn't be able to see meteors flying down the Earth because it's a little bit darker out. These alien beings are known by many other alien species though as the Planet Enders, or Endids. They spell it two different ways in the video. Gonna guess they wrote the text in haste though to make sure we all got this information in time. People from 2858 can make spelling mistakes too. Anyway, the Planet Endids have invaded a plethora of planets across the galaxy, and aside from their warmongering, violent ways, they've also brought a disease with them to Earth, the same disease that wiped out the alien beings who apparently once lived on Mars. So these invaders have been among us for about a week now at the time of this recording, awaiting the perfect time to strike. Because you guys are kind of watching this in the future, at least compared to me, why don't you let me know down in the comments what's going on. Our journey through time continues with a mysterious man simply known as Edward. In 2018, a man calling himself Edward came out claiming to be a time traveler from the year 5000. He said he'd been part of a top secret government time travel mission in 2004, where he traveled to the year 5000. He gave an interview where he shared a photo of what he said was Los Angeles in the future, and according to him, the city will be submerged underwater due to massive flooding caused by climate change. To substantiate his claim, Edward provided a photograph which he said depicted the future state of LA. In the photo, he described seeing skyscrapers and other buildings submerged in water, with only the tops visible above the waterline. He also stated that in the future, the effects of global warming will cause sea levels to rise significantly, leading to widespread flooding in coastal cities around the world, including Los Angeles, and that the inhabitants of these cities will have to adapt to new living conditions, with the remaining population living on the water's surface. Next, we have the Greek military time travelers. In 2017, an anonymous man claimed that after serving in the Greek military for 6 years, he was invited in 2013 to participate in a top secret time travel project. According to his account, this project saw him travel to the year 3207, a journey that lasted 2 days. From his perspective, about a month after his story came out, another anonymous man from Greece also said he was a student, when in 2008 he was reportedly approached by a professor who offered him the chance to be part of a time travel experiment. He accepted and claimed to have been sent to the year 10,000. The purpose of this experiment was said to be related to gaining knowledge about a future war between humans and artificial intelligence. Again, I think they sent him way too far into the future if it's a war between humans and artificial intelligence. 10,000? That's pretty far up there. Maybe there's something wrong with the machine. And also, I mean, according to some other time travelers we've discussed already, that's a war we won't be winning. They could have just asked them, saved the whole trip. Next up, we have Athos Salame, who's now being referred to as the modern-day Nostradamus. He's made all these predictions about the future, a lot of them very similar to the type of stuff we've heard of before when it comes to end-of-the-world conspiracies, alien contact coming soon, AI reaching a new level of awareness and taking over, more deadly natural disasters, a big war, soon we'll be able to communicate with the dead through artificial intelligence technology, you know, all your standard stuff. But what I find really genuinely interesting and kind of creepy about this whole thing is that I'm honestly not even sure if this Athos Salame guy is a real person. I've seen plenty of pictures of him, and I've read news articles quoting things he's apparently said. I've seen other people in videos quoting things he said. I'm one of them. We have a whole video on this guy on the channel. Check it out after this. But I haven't seen footage of him actually moving his mouth and talking on video. I've seen like one, but it's like a narrator over top of it and it's like low quality. It could be AI generated. And I mean, just look at him. Doesn't he look like he could be an AI generated image to you? I mean, all these news articles say he makes TikTok videos, but I can't find them. So what the hell is actually going on here? Who is Athos Salame? Is there a real person behind all these predictions, or is this some kind of artificially created thing? And if so, who created it? Next up, we have a man who claimed to have traveled through time with Barack Obama, Andrew Basiago. Basiago claimed he was part of Project Pegasus, a secret US government initiative that he says took place during the 60s and 70s. This project focused on developing technology for teleportation and time travel. He said he was chosen as a participant when he was just a young tyke because of his father's connection to the project. The technologies he mentioned included the chronovisor and teleporters. A chronovisor is said to be a device that allows users to view events from the past and future, while teleporters are said to enable physical travel across time and space instantaneously. But he didn't just go forwards in time, no, he traveled back to 1863, where he witnessed the Gettysburg Address delivered by President Abe Lincoln himself. Basiago was very public with his claims. At one point, he even ran for president, with part of his platform promising to reveal the secrets of time travel and teleportation technology. I mean, how did he not win the presidency? Doesn't everyone want to know all of these secrets? It was a cheap tactic, but I guess in the end, it didn't work anyway. Finally, we have the one and only John Titor. This is probably the most well-known time-traveling claim in the history of the internet. Now, of course, the whole thing is very far-fetched, but what is interesting about these posts are how detailed they are. Whoever this John Titor really is or was, quite the imagination. Or he's a real time traveler, obviously. So it all began in November of 2000 when someone started posting on online forums claiming to be an American military time traveler from the year 2036. They later start using the name John Titor in future posts, and according to Titor, he was sent back to 1975 originally to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer in order to read older programming languages in the future. He claims this machine was needed to debug legacy computer programs that existed in his time. And on his way back to 2036, Titor claimed he made a stopover in the year 2000 for personal reasons, and during this time is when he decided to interact with people on internet message boards. He gave detailed explanations about how his time machine and how time travel worked in general. He included diagrams and descriptions of its operation based on theoretical physics concepts. Till this day, it's still a complete mystery as to who this guy was. Was it just some dude having some fun? Was it a social experiment of some kind? We'll probably never know. What I do know though is that his whole story was a bit more interesting than just like, oh, aliens invade in the future. Going back from an old IBM computer? I don't know. Creative. Alright, next up we have Edgar Casey, often referred to as the Sleeping Prophet. He was an American psychic who did most of his work in the early to mid 1900s. He was known for entering into this deep, trance-like state while giving readings on a wide range of topics like health, spirituality, Atlantis for some reason came up a lot, and of course future events. Now he didn't explicitly discuss time travel, but he did describe his consciousness leaving his body, combining this with future prophecies, and that's basically traveling in time. Casey's predictions often revolved around a concept he referred to as the Earth changes. According to his readings, these changes were geological and environmental shifts that would happen in the future, leading to problems. Some of his predictions included the shifting of the Earth's axis, which would result in changes in climate and sea levels. He also spoke of societal and political catastrophes, saying the only way to avoid it was through spiritual awakening and moral development as a society to help mitigate the severity of these events. Let's throw a witch into the mix, shall we? Mother Shipton. One tale goes that her mother Agatha was a witch herself and summoned the devil before her to bring her a child. And that child was Ursula Southill, aka Mother Shipton, who instead of crying like most babies when she was born, made an unsettling cackling sound because she was a half and half. Dad was a devil, mom was a witch. Bit of a nasty shock for everyone when they found out. She lived in the 16th century, and her predictions, which were often in the form of rhymes, have been studied and analyzed For centuries, her verses are filled with vivid imagery and poetic language. She prophesies technological advancements, political changes, and horrible natural disasters. She's said to have predicted the invention of cars, submarines, and even airplanes. But she also made vague predictions about the end times. The original date was 1821, which obviously didn't come true, unless we're all just living in some Matrix-style computer simulation or something. So the end of the world date keeps being reassessed and bumped forward. Don't worry though, guys, things will all come crashing down eventually. Next up, we have Harold Camping, a former Christian radio evangelist. This guy used his mind to travel to the future so often, they just kept fumbling the dates of his doomsday predictions and had to keep reassessing and, again, bumping them up. Unfortunately though, everything just kept on being okay. First he said the world was gonna end in early September of 94. It didn't, but he was adamant that 94 was gonna be the year and reassessed and realized, oh wait, it's actually end of September. Sorry, 29th, not the 6th. Then he bumped it up to October and so on. But you know what? I can't imagine being clairvoyant is very easy on the brain. It must be a bit confusing and overwhelming to the senses. Anyway, then he said Christ was going to return on May 21st of 2011, which was a good thing for him and his followers, but bad for everyone else, of course, as the pitiful non-believers were going to be suffering in eternal torment. It was a very exciting time, but sadly, May 21st passed on without any horrific suffering, on a mass scale anyway. I guess somebody's suffering every day. So Harold Camping, being the incredible clairvoyant wizard that he was, said, well, the spiritual judgment, that happened on May 21st. We've all been assessed, getting everyone's paperwork together, but get excited, folks. October, that's when the physical rapture is gonna happen. And it didn't. And apparently Camping was clairvoyant enough to know it too, because he quit working on the radio station just a few days before this apparent biblical apocalypse was set to take place. If there's two things that seem to go together like chocolate and peanut butter, it's time travel and space travel. And that's exactly why I have Heaven's Gate cult leader Marshall Applewhite on the list. This guy firmly believed the world was coming to an end and that the only way to survive was to ascend to a higher plane of existence by shedding the physical form and reaching the very creatively titled Next Level, where he and his followers would live a happy, transcendent existence in space. Most of you know how this went. Applewhite and the rest of the Heaven's Gate cult donned their uniforms, complete with armbands reading Heaven's Gate Away Team, and consumed heavy amounts of a certain substance, washing it down with a vodka, before suffocating themselves with plastic bags over their head. I'm not really sure why they needed the uniforms, seeing as the whole point was they were shedding their physical forms, but who am I, right? You know? Rudolph Steiner. This guy was the founder of a spiritual movement called anthroposophy. His teachings delved into the nature of existence, human consciousness, and the spiritual world in general. His philosophy often touched on the idea of spiritual evolution and the cyclical nature of existence. He often discussed reincarnation in his work, meaning that, according to him, people go through multiple lifetimes to learn and evolve spiritually, so it may not be time travel in a conventional sense, but it does imply a journey through time on a more spiritual level. He also spoke about the idea that humanity is on a path of development, and our collective actions and choices play a big role in shaping the future, and a major consequence of humanity not developing spiritually, again, according to him, meant that a very dark future was ahead. Next on the list is David Meade. This guy is a conspiracy theorist and author who's made a number of predictions about an impending apocalypse, mostly linking it to a planet called Nibiru, or a Planet X. Meade, who identifies as a Christian numerologist, claimed to have uncovered hidden codes within the Bible, using them to predict specific celestial events. His predictions have focused on the alignment of celestial bodies and certain numerical calculations that point to a catastrophic collision between Earth and Planet X. I remember hearing a lot about this doomsday prediction leading up to 2012. That was a big year for end of the world predictions. Once again, didn't pan out though. Next up, we have David Icke. David Icke is a British conspiracy theorist known for promoting some pretty unconventional ideas. One of his most notorious claims involves the existence of shape-shifting reptilian human humanoid aliens who, according to him, secretly control the world. You've heard of this stuff before, especially if you watch this channel. Icke suggests that many prominent figures, world leaders, and celebrities for the most part, are actually reptilians in disguise. The idea that powerful figures are actually reptilian aliens manipulating humanity has become a pretty well-known conspiracy theory at this point, and some people really believe it, like wholeheartedly. Icke has also made plenty of predictions about the end of the world, and as well as other, global conspiracies. He's talked about how the global elite, working in collaboration with these supposed reptilian beings, are orchestrating events to control and manipulate the world, and of course, they don't have our best intentions in mind. I guess his publisher might have been one of these reptilians, because at a certain point, apparently he was just like, no more of this. I can't publish any of these books anymore. So now he just self-publishes. He's got like tons of books about this stuff. It's nuts. Finally though, we have Baba Vanga. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you've probably heard of this lady before. She's made all kinds of horrific predictions about the future, some of which were pretty eerily accurate. For those of you who aren't aware though, Baba Vanga was a Bulgarian mystic and clairvoyant born in 1911 and died in 1996. She became famous for her apparent ability to make predictions about the future, and a good number of these predictions were pretty bad. Her predictions were wide-ranging, covering global events, natural disasters. One of her biggest apocalyptic predictions was that the world would end in the 51st century, but she didn't really give a lot of explicit detail about how that would occur, so good luck to us trying to avoid it. Similar to Nostradamus, her prophecies were usually a bit on the cryptic side, open to interpretation.
First up is the 2030 Traveler. A time traveler known only as Noah claims to be from the year 2030. Now this story I'm telling you is from 2017, so just keep that in mind. He turned up on the radio show Kyle and Jackie O and told them that he traveled multiple times in the past but was stuck in the present day. I usually went from like early 1999 to like 2018 around here, but when I got stuck I was in the year 2017, he explained. So how does he do it? I have many body implications and things all over myself, and I step in this giant dome and these things fire up, and basically a large electronic weight basically pushes you through time. It feels like you got electrocuted, he said. Now one of the most shocking things was that he claims that us humans will be able to communicate with aliens. He said, we've confirmed the existence of aliens, but they're not incredibly intelligent. Right now the government has communication with them, but we don't know it. In the future we actually are in contact with aliens that are just as smart as humans, although we have many more advancements over them, he said. Now of course his claims have attracted skepticism, and in response he agreed to take a lie detector test on camera. He listed events he said will happen in the next 12 years, and then the interviewer asked if he was telling the truth, and the machine records that he is. I mean, I guess this guy is legit. Up next is the chain of events. TikTok user Eno Alarkic, who is a time traveler from 2671, has gained thousands of followers on the app by posting warnings about future events. In one video, Eno wrote, "Attention, I am a time traveler from the year 2671, and I'm here to warn you about these 5 dates to come. November 30th, 2022, the James Webb Telescope discovers a planet that is a mirrored version of Earth. January 1st, 2023, a plane flying over the Bermuda Triangle goes missing. March 3rd, 2023, a message is received all around the world that seems to have come from the ocean. May 15th, 2023, a 750 mega tsunami hits the California coast, mainly San Francisco. And June 18th, 2023, 7 people mysteriously fall from the sky, but there was nothing flying in that area." Now, how believable is this? Well, I don't really think any of this happened, but just the thoughts of these events even happening is chilling. Moving on to the alien invasion. On March 23, 2023, a time traveler who warned of an alien invasion claims that said extraterrestrials had arrived on Earth and abducted 8,000 Earthlings. The champion has arrived to bring 8,000 people to another planet, they said. The so-called time traveler warned of a very hostile alien species known as the Distance that are coming to take back the Earth. It's a fight we will not win. They claim that the champions were looking for the best engineers, scientists, doctors, and leaders, years, and these 8,000 people are what keep the human species alive from inside and outside threats. Thankfully though, they add, I want you all to know that you are safe, and I'm trying to warn you of what's to come. Now, last year we were having all those weird UFO sightings. Could those have been related to this incident they are talking about? I don't know, maybe. Now we have the dangers of technology. A time traveler claims to have come back from the future to warn us all of an impending apocalypse, humans versus technology. They said there was one huge computer controlling everything, which is not controlled by a person, but makes all demands and decisions itself. Apparently the computer had the power to destroy the entire planet at once. So did this person really just confirm that we live in a simulation? I think so. Now, speaking to the camera, the time traveler who had his voice and identity changed to protect himself said, I was not born here, I was born in 3258 on December 1st in the European Empire. Now, the time traveler explained that he was drafted into the army at 18 and wore a uniform made of gold and saw everything that happened in 3260. He said there were not only robots, they were very clever and can take the decisions communicated with each other. He said the war began on September 21st, 33,000 when he was 42, and that there has never been such a war on the planet. It was fateful and tragic for all people all over the world. Now, I'm not gonna lie guys, I feel like this is plausible and makes me scared, but I won't be alive in 33,000, so I don't really have to worry. Now let's talk about the alien war. A time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed the world will end in 2038 during a war with an alien species that has apparently already invaded Earth. A mysterious social media user who claims to be a time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed to know how the world is going to end. The user claims that aliens have come to Earth to take over the planet, but the war apparently won't start until 2024. Now, guys, let me remind you that we are in 2024 right now. They said the first war will begin in early 2024 and will end in 2038 with the Earth being destroyed. Captioning the clip, they added, another species of aliens save us, but not the planet. The first being that everyone would dream of an alien invasion by a species called the Zels on February 28th before the actual invasion, which was supposedly meant to take place on March 2nd. Now people took to the comments to debate whether the alleged warnings could come true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Catastrophic events are next. A time traveler from the year 3036 has left us some scary messages about the future. In a series of videos posted on his channel, the mysterious traveler claims the world's population in 3036 will reach record levels, with domestic animals such as cats and dogs considered exotic. Now he also warned of something called the Big Blackout. The Big Blackout, if I'm not mistaken, happens in December 2052. Basically everything goes dark for an upward of 5 years, the internet, the power, it all gets disconnected on account of what's called the terrors, but many speculate otherwise. Anyway, 5 years, it's turmoil, riots, you name it, it's pretty much the worst of times. It takes them upwards to 20 years to get the power back online, and even then it's absolute chaos. Now he also added, you're as free as you're ever gonna get right now, he said, staring directly back into the camera. These are considered the last days of freedom, your kids won't even see it, so suck it up, because as simple-minded as your time period is, you got it pretty good, you just don't know it. Yeah, that is scary, I do not like that. Then we have the end of humanity. A TikToker that goes by Javier claims to be a time traveler. Javier's first video, posted in February 2021, depicts scenes throughout the city of Valencia, Spain that look relatively normal, except for one fact: the city appears to be completely void of people. In the video, which has been viewed over 7 million times, he claims to be a time traveler from the year 2027. He says that by then humanity will have gone extinct. A translation of the text within the video describes the eerie scene. Nobody in shopping malls, nobody on the streets. In a video posted soon after, he adds, I keep trying to find human life, I'm starting to lose hope. Now, what happens to humans, he doesn't say, but 2027 isn't too far away, and we have to prevent whatever he claims will happen. On to the time travel program. A disguised woman who has introduced herself as Mia claims to have been recruited into a secret US time travel program before she finished high school. The alleged time traveler traveler said she was offered good money to travel nearly 600 years into the future, where the world is completely different to how we know it today. Allegedly, the world faces the irreparable consequences of climate change, the rise of artificial intelligence, and aliens settling on Earth. Now this seems realistic. Now by the year 2600, the concept of independent nations will cease to exist, and humans will be ruled over by a world government run by AI. At the same time, humans will supposedly live in 11 megacities spread across the globe, where they will coexist with smart robots and aliens. The time traveler said, "I visited the year 2600, and it's very hard to explain to you what it was like because it's so different from the world we live in today. I saw robots, aliens, and human beings all living together in peace." And she added that, "I talked to people from this time and they told me how the world had changed. They said that the red sky was caused by global warming and that they all had microchips in them that made them smarter than their brains normally were. They said countries no longer existed and that the whole world was governed by AI." Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Next up, we have Trevor the Time Traveler. Self-proclaimed Trevor the Time Traveler is from the year 2049, and he claims to know when World War III will break out. He claims to be visiting from over 2 decades into our future in search of his pal Roger, aka Kronos. But while on his so-called mission, he stopped to make videos warning people of what's to come, with claims about catastrophic events from aliens to natural disasters. However, among these warnings, Trevor claimed to know when World War III would break out and shared information to his followers. In a clip, Trevor wrote, "Here are 3 dates that something terrible is going to happen. Remember this date: February 21st, 2024, something very big will happen. May 29th, 2030, a 3rd World War will start, lasting 7 years between the North and South. And 2037, the war ends and the second baby boom happens, growing the population too high." And last on our list is that the US is destroyed. A TikTok time traveler posted a video saying, "I'm a real time traveler from the year 2236, and I've come to a date in time to warn you about upcoming events in the next few years," they wrote. They said in 2022, scientists discover a way to bring back the megalodon shark through using its DNA, and they create a real megalodon in 2023, and surprisingly nothing goes wrong. In 2025, scientists discover signs of life on 2 different planets, and they're proven to be more advanced than humans, they predicted. A meteor will come down to Earth in 2034 and will wipe out half of America, they said, and the alleged time traveler suggests that 50% of the US would be destroyed in just 12 years. The self-confessed Time Lord made another forecast for the upcoming decade, as they predicted the Maui dolphin will become extinct. Now this isn't all. The TikToker also claimed that Disney will buy another large film studio, and one of the largest tornadoes will hit North America, causing many casualties. Now, while we don't know if the Meg is back yet, I think this is believable. We'll also just have to wait until 2025 to see if they're right.
Number 10. Project Pegasus and the Chrononauts. While that may sound like a sweet alt-rock band, Project Pegasus didn't have anything to do with music, but with moving through time. Seattle attorney Andrew Basiago has been making claims since 2004 that when he was younger, starting at the age of 7, he participated in the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, Project Pegasus, focusing on teleportation and time travel. He and a few others were chosen at a young age because allegedly children could adapt well to the strains of moving between past, present, and future. Along with his fellow Chrononauts, love the name, he adventured throughout time to places like the Gettysburg Address in 1863 and to Ford's Theater to witness the assassination of President Lincoln, quote, 5 or 6 times. I don't know why he was so obsessed with Lincoln. He was allegedly even captured in a photograph. He claims that he witnessed 8 different time travel technologies throughout the course of the project, and that most were based on engineering specs and sketches by Nikola Tesla. And if one person was to come up with teleportation or time travel, I think it would be Tesla himself. Pure genius, that one. Andrew even met himself a few times in the past, and surprisingly didn't cause a paradox. His claims are supported by others who say that the Defense Department has had time travel capabilities for over 40 years, but has kept it secret. Andrew Basiago also ran for president in 2016, but we all know how that turned out. Maybe he should have used time travel to change the outcome. Number 9. Villin ashtar radio incident. On Saturday, November 26, 1977, in the southern United Kingdom, a mysterious voice interrupted a news broadcast and gave strange commands and predictions of the future. Accompanied by unsettling pulsing noises and echoes, the electronic sounding voice claimed to be Villin, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. Aliens aliens or future beings sent to deliver a warning message that humans must denounce and remove all of their weapons of evil in order for an age of peace and prosperity to come to fruition, the age of Aquarius. If humans do not comply and turn from their evil ways, humanity will fall. Here's a little clip.
This is the voice of Allah, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
Though the message is foreboding and super creepy, this messenger from the future actually makes some good points and gives some decent advice, like have no fear, seek only to know yourselves and live in harmony with the ways of your planet Earth. Seems like they were listening to the hippies at the time, and they had the right idea. After taking control of the station, they bid farewell and said they would leave our plane of existence, leaving us with their final words, "May you be blessed by the supreme love and truth of the cosmos." Aww. Thanks, Verlin. Number 8. Guardian Angel. In 2019, a video surfaced of a shop owner in Turkey tending to some of his merchandise. Very normal, nothing to see here, until a man calmly walks up behind him and casually taps him on the shoulder as he walks by, causing the shop owner to turn around. But not a moment later, a gate from a large truck driving by swings open, nearly killing him. And if it wasn't for this mystery man's actions, the shop owner would surely be dead. The truck driver returned to apologize for what had happened, but the mysterious stranger was nowhere to be found. Some commenters believe that this man had come back from the future to save lives, perhaps not just the shopkeep's. That's the only one that we caught on camera. Others have noticed that the two men look similar, even their outfits aren't far off, implying that maybe it's the same man, or their son somehow come back from the future. Though it looks like it was filmed on a potato, so who can be sure. Number 7. Rudolph Fentz. The story of Rudolph Fentz is one that has been hotly debated amongst the time travel investigation community. In 1951, people in Times Square in New York City noticed a man suddenly appear wearing 19th century clothing. He appeared to be disoriented and confused, and after running into an intersection in a daze, he was hit by a car and fatally injured. When his body was inspected, they found strange items in his possession that appeared to have come from another time. A copper token for a beer worth 5 cents bearing the name of a saloon which was unknown even to older residents of the area, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage made by a stable that was not listed in any address book, old banknotes, business cards with his name and address, as well as a letter sent to him postmarked in 1876. These items in his attire have led people to believe that Rudolph was a man from the past, probably from 1876, who unfortunately slipped through time to a place that he didn't or couldn't comprehend, and his confusion ultimately killed him. Tragic story, really. Number 6. Bob White. In 2003, Dave Hill, along with countless others, received an email from Bob White. Normally, a spam email would just get ignored by Dave, but this one was too strange to pass up. The email explained that he needed help from a time traveler, or any alien disguised as human, because his life had been severely tampered with, and he needed, quote, temporal reversion to correct it. He resorted to the internet to find help.
You ever come across anything like time travel?
He asked the people receiving the message for strange mechanical parts that didn't exist, like an AMD dimensional warp generator module containing the GRC79 induction motor, or an Acme 5X24 series time transducing capacitor with built-in temporal displacement. I don't even think a Time Lord could help him find these ridiculous sounding parts. But Dave Hill decided to have some fun and responded to his message saying that he could get what he needed. And he even sent an old hard drive motor to Bob, claiming that it was a warp generator, which Bob gratefully accepted, believing it was the part he needed.
It's a time machine, Napoleon. You bought it online.
You're right.
It works, Napoleon. You don't even know.
It was later revealed that Bob White was a man named Robbie Tadino, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts who admitted to sending over 100 million messages for help out into cyberspace, and truly believed, and still does believe, that he was affected by time travel and needs to make a machine to fix it. The story he describes and the machine he seems intent on building is so specific that many people are convinced he has met time travelers or aliens and is really trying to recreate their technology with human things that just don't exist yet. Let's just hope he gets it all sorted out. Number 5. The Philadelphia Experiment and Montauk Project. I've talked about these before in a previous video, but they require another mention here as there are so many accounts of what happened that it's overwhelming. Allegedly, there was a secret military operation being performed in 1943 at the shipyard aboard the USS Eldridge. The experiment involved cloaking, not time travel, strangely enough, but when they attempted to conceal the ship with the technology they developed, the ship did indeed disappear, but that was because it was moved 10 minutes into the past, which reportedly caused some of the crew to go mad. And later, another secret military operation called the Montauk Project was tasked with creating gates for time travel, using psychic links from children who are much more attuned to these kinds of things apparently, and can open their minds more, so the witnesses claim. One of these many gates that were opened apparently led back to the USS Eldridge during the 10 minutes of time dilation, but these two experiments are linked by one person who has since shared their experience. Number 4. Al Bilck. Al Bilck was a Navy officer aboard the USS Eldridge during the Philadelphia experiment, also known as Project Rainbow, and when the time jump occurred, he wasn't sent 10 minutes into the past. He claims that he was sent forward to the year 2137. When he was rescued from the water, he was taken to a futuristic hospital where he was treated for radiation sickness they say he developed from the time jump. He described major differences in the world, the coastlines being swallowed by the oceans, worldwide government collapse followed by the rise of a system that allowed everyone to get what they need when they needed it, for free, by abolishing the concept of money. He was eventually sent back and continued to live his life, burdened by what he had learned, with few believing him, until he was later recruited by the Montauk Project as their program director for the psychics involved with creating the time tunnels, which he used to investigate as far back as 100,000 BC and as far forward as the year 6037. Of course, he maintains that the government has done everything in their power to stop him from revealing all of this, disavowing him once he went public with his stories. Do you believe his story? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. Time traveling Trump. Now, I don't like talking about this former first family very much unless it has to do with all the current investigations, but some of these coincidences are just a little too eerie, though I do believe that they are just that. This conspiracy theory came from a discovery on the Library of Congress website, where readers found books from the 1890s, one called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and another called 1900, or The Last President. The first is about a young man named Baron Trump, who discovers portals for time travel, and at one point in the book he was actually guided by a man named Dawn. In the second book, an odd choice for president wins the election, and has someone with the last name Pence in their cabinet. Even the address where New York's Trump Tower now stands was mentioned. Personally, I believe that the former president's son Baron was named after the character in the book, not the other way around, but the connections found are certainly interesting. Number 2. Mike Markham. In early 1995, 21-year-old Mike Madman Markham attempted to build a time machine on his front porch. Of course, it didn't work, but that didn't deter him, and he kept working towards his goal. He later stole the expensive parts that he needed and caused a bit of trouble doing so. Then, after he got out of jail, he went on a radio program called Coast to Coast AM to talk about the machine he was building, saying that he was nearly finished and would be testing it soon, even giving out his phone number so that anyone with knowledge on the subject could help him out. Then he disappeared off the face of the earth. No one could find him for months, after which he said he was going to travel back in time only with his cell phone, and later that same week an old story was dug up from the 1930s of a man who was found dead on a beach in California, encapsulated in some sort of metal tube with a strange device, the description of which matches that of a cell phone from the 1990s. Could that be the eventual fate of Mike? And finally, our number 1, under the sink. In 2006, a Swedish man by the name of Håkan Nordqvist was fixing a leak from a cracked pipe under his sink when he noticed something strange, a bright light that seemed to beckon him in a way. He crawled in and suddenly appeared somewhere completely different, but he wasn't alone. He claims that he met someone there, or rather, he met himself. He claimed that he ran into himself, but a future version, perhaps around 70 years old. And since he knew no one would believe him, he pulled out his cell phone and filmed the meeting. The two men do look remarkably similar, but the clincher for this whole story is when they rolled up their sleeves and revealed that they both have the exact same tattoo, in the exact same place. We all know that one of the main rules of time travel is to never interact with yourself, so we're lucky he didn't cause a paradox and rip a hole in time and space.
Number 10. What even is a multiverse? I think a good place to start with this list is with something I can actually explain. When the universe first came into being during the Big Bang, it was followed by a massive infinite expansion, which we can prove as we can see it happening. When we look out into the universe, what we see is the past as the light makes its way to us. So, if we look out, say, 5 light years into space, what we see will be 5 years in the past over there. Astronomers with our modern technology are able to see out to a distance of about 42 billion light years into the universe, seeing events in places of space as they happened 42 billion years in the past. But we have no reason to believe the universe doesn't go further and infinitely. As the expansion continues infinitely with no stop, then things are bound to repeat themselves. Events will occur in the exact same form or fashion as they have before, like the formation of the Earth in a galaxy that is basically the same as ours. Life would occur in the same way, and decisions by those living beings would occur in the same way, leading to another you, or another me, or another us. But they would also occur in different ways as well. Every decision you make could be made a different way, and those infinitely repeated versions of you that exist would make those same or different decisions, leading to an infinite number of universes with planets just like this one, with infinite different variations of history. This makes a multiverse. Theoretically, if someone is to travel backwards in time, they would now be existing in one of these alternate versions of history, one of these infinite alternate worlds. Number 9. The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect, sometimes referred to as the Mandela Phenomenon, is an instance of false collective memory, a situation in which a large mass of people believes that an event occurred when it did not. It was named for a collected belief from a small group of people that Nelson Mandela had passed away in the 1980s in a South African prison, when he actually passed away in 2013. Some people even remembered seeing news coverage of his death as well as a speech by his widow. But the thing is, that was nowhere near the only instance of the Mandela Effect. One of the most well-known examples of the Mandela Effect is the collective memory of a movie called Shazam that starred the actor/comedian Sinbad in the 1990s, when actually no movie exists at all. While this could be false memories or your brain filling in gaps, another big theory for why this happens originates from quantum physics and relates to the idea that rather than one timeline of events, alternate realities or universes may be taking place and mixing with our timeline. This theory is suggesting that the groups of people having the same memories is because the timeline has been altered as we shift between these different realities. While we can't prove this theory right, we can't prove it wrong either, and so it has remained a popular answer for an interesting phenomenon. Number 8. Doppelgangers of the mind. Ooh. Autoscopic phenomena. It comes from autoscopy. In Greek, autos means self and scopio means looking at. The simplest form of an autoscopic phenomenon involves feeling the presence of someone next to you without actually seeing a double or anyone there. But the doppelganger effect takes the phenomenon a step further, so that a person may hallucinate that they are actually seeing and interacting with another version of themselves. But probably the most widely experienced and best known form of autoscopic phenomena is the out-of-body experience, seeing yourself from the outside perspective. They are all technically hallucinations caused by malfunctions in brain mechanisms that root us in the here and now, but just like with the Mandela Effect, some people believe these hallucinations can also be explained with both time travel and or the multiverse. For example, you wake up out of bed but you can still see yourself laying in bed fast asleep. Some believe this is caused by your brain blurring the lines between alternate universes, or that perhaps you traveled forward in time and are now looking back at an alternate timeline of you that is still laying in bed. Now that may sound wacky, but what about when there are actually two people in the world who look basically the same? Number 7. Lookalikes. So, do you remember in my first point how I was explaining that over the course of the limitless expansion of space, things are bound to repeat themselves? Well, we kind of have a pretty good example of that on Earth. Over time and through history, and even sometimes at the same time, there will be people on Earth that look shockingly similar to one another. We have all seen the photos of celebrities being compared to old paintings of people from the past, or two people meeting on an airplane that look practically identical despite not being related at all. The chances of even one of us being created exactly how we are so small that every person alive is pretty much a miracle. That's a positive. So to find someone else who has been created in such a shockingly similar way to you is pretty insane. For some, this just shows that building blocks can repeat themselves within the human species at different points throughout time, and if we expand that out to our universe, it just makes sense that that same kind of thing happens with universes. Doppelganger universes making a multiverse. Number 6. Flying. A lot of parallel universe and time travel stories seem to do with flying, and I've got one such story for you here. And if you stick around for point number 1, there's another interesting event that I think you'd find pretty cool. So, back in 1935, when he was still a wing commander, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard was instructed to inspect an inactive airbase located in Drem, near Edinburgh, in Scotland. While flying over it, Sir Goddard found the airbase to be in a poor state, with cattle grazing on the grass that had overgrown. overgrown. It was in complete rack shambles. Later on, while flying, he got into a bit of harsh weather, and to avoid an accident, Goddard decided to fly back to the airbase till the weather cleared out a bit. Now, as he approached the airbase, the rain oddly and very abruptly gave way to bright sunshine, but the real shock came when he also noticed that the airbase was now in mint condition and in use. He saw mechanics wearing blue overalls working on the yellow planes parked on the runway, and Sir Goddard failed to recognize any one of these planes in the base as any that were in use at this time. Instant renovation of the place couldn't have been possible, and the personnel weren't even wearing the khaki-colored uniforms that were the norm at that time. Also, the Air Force painted all their planes in silver, not yellow. The real kicker came 4 years later though. Europe was war-torn and he happened to visit Drem again, but this time he saw everything he saw 4 years ago in 1935. Same people in the same blue overalls servicing the same yellow planes, and he even found the plane that he couldn't recognize before, a Miles Magister. And you can figure out how that means multiverses or time travel. Number 4, the Streets of Liverpool. There are way too many strange stories about the streets of Liverpool that seem almost unexplainable. Like visiting those streets is stepping into an alternate universe or an alternate time. But we're going to talk about one specific example. In 2011, a woman went to a mother care store to buy a gift for her sister. While checking out, her credit card was turned down and she went back home and complained to her mother. Then they both returned to the place where the store was, but there was no store. It was actually a bank. Now, either this woman is full of it and just didn't want to get her sister a gift, so she came up with some crazy story to explain that away, or, stick with me here, or she stepped into a multiversal vortex and traveled to an alternate time or universe where the store did exist, only to leave it back to our universe, which is where she told her mom and returned to the same location in our universe or timeline, but it was a bank. Or she just forgot where the store was, or she's just lying. I'm gonna let you guys decide, you figure it out. Number 3, Deja Vu. Deja Vu is just one of those things that we struggle to describe. Sometimes an explanation of instances of real deja vu comes in the form of short mental time trips to the future. Now you could just say it is an emotional thing, some feeling of I have already experienced this, a close feeling of familiarity for a scene that's just happening. This could be caused by experiencing a similar event that has already happened in your past. You're immediately and maybe subconsciously entering pieces of knowledge about what will happen in the course of the next few seconds, minutes, or maybe even hours based on those things you experienced before, even if they weren't particularly important or memorable. But what about when those details you fill in are impossible to derive from your present knowledge because you haven't experienced them before? So you just know the layout of a city, although you have never been there in your entire life. You know what the person near you will say or do in the next minutes, verbatim sentences for example, which they have not said before. If you ask a neurologist about this, or any human perceptual, mental, or emotional phenomenon, then they will always have an explanation, and it's almost always to do with biochemistry in the human brain. But that answer is boring, and I'm going to go out on a whim here with the other people on Reddit and say that it's you mentally or subconsciously traveling to the future or to another universe to pick up information and relay it back to your brain. Boom! Number 2. What happens when you die? There are many theories about what happens when you finally bite the bullet, when we hit the hay for good, when we pass away. One theory has to do with the multiverse, and if it deals with the multiverse, then it kind of deals with time. The parallel universe theory claims that when we die, we will be living in the same universe as we were before, just in a different portion of space and time. But if we are now in a different portion of space and time than when we died, we had to have traveled time and space to a point where we didn't make the decisions or didn't experience the exact set of events that led to our demise. Now this is probably the most far-fetched moment from today because it deals with something we 100% cannot prove. But given the idea of so many different religions and beliefs believing in things like a world after our lives, like heaven where everything goes right, or reincarnation after death where we start again without a memory of our previous lives, it feels as though moving to a different portion of space and time, or creating a new personal timeline when ours is destroyed, would somewhat explain those things in some ways. I don't know. The kicker is, we won't ever know for sure, so give me your theories down below. And finally, in at number 1, the plane experiment. Now, we're gonna end today with a real-world experiment of time that could actually prove something here. We are all traveling through time, all of us moving at 1 second per second. Cool. Or are we? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you travel, the slower you experience time. And this isn't really a theory anymore, since some scientists have done some experiments to show that it's actually true. There was an experiment that used two clocks set to the exact same time. One clock stayed on Earth while the other flew in an airplane going in the same direction that Earth rotates. After the airplane flew around the world, scientists compared the two clocks. The clock on the fast-moving airplane was slightly behind the clock on the ground. So, the clock on the airplane was traveling slightly slower in time than 1 second per second. So, if that's the case, and this is where I go off the rails, if you were on that airplane when you arrived back on Earth, are you now technically in an alternate time, aka a parallel world? Or were you in an alternate timeline while flying in the plane? You were moving at a different speed of time, so you were experiencing a different time, although slightly. Am I completely pulling everything I've said today out of my backside? The answer is maybe.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have out-of-place artifacts. Imagine this. You're going about your day when you suddenly stumble upon an object that seems to defy the laws of time. It's an artifact that simply doesn't belong in this era. Perhaps it's a Roman coin you find mixed in with your pocket change, its ancient markings standing out starkly against the modern coins. Or maybe it's a smartphone you spot in the background of a 19th century painting, its sleek design contrasting sharply with the oil-lit surroundings. Even more startling, you might discover a dinosaur fossil bearing the unmistakable imprint of a human footprint. These are not just ordinary objects, they are out-of-place artifacts, or ooparts as they are known among the enthusiasts of temporal anomalies. These ooparts are more than just historical curiosities, they are physical evidence that you've been somewhere, or rather somewhen, else. They are tangible proof that you've slipped through the cracks of time, visiting eras far removed from your own. So the next time you find an object that seems a little out of place, take a closer look. It might just be a souvenir from your time travels, a memento of your journey through the ages. In our number 9 spot today, we have Anachronistic Knowledge. Imagine waking up one day with knowledge you cannot explain. You're suddenly fluent in ancient Sumerian, a language that has been dead for centuries. You're familiar with the intricate workings of a quantum computer, a technology that hasn't been invented yet. You know the outcome of tomorrow's headlines, the discoveries that will revolutionize our understanding of ancient cultures, the events that will shape the course of history. This isn't just a lucky guess or a sudden stroke of genius, this is detailed, specific knowledge, the kind of knowledge that comes from experience. It's as if you've lived through these events, learned these languages, used these technologies. It's as if your mind has traveled through time. This anachronistic knowledge, as it's known, could be a sign of time travel. It suggests that your consciousness has somehow slipped the bonds of linear time, journeying into the past or the future. It's a tantalizing idea, one that challenges our understanding of time and consciousness. So, if you find yourself knowing things you shouldn't, consider this. You might be a time traveler, a voyager in the vast ocean of time. In our number 7 spot today, we have time-slipped locations. You take a wrong turn on a familiar road and find yourself in a place that seems to exist outside of time. The architecture is from a bygone era, the people are dressed in outdated fashion, and the technology is decades, if not centuries behind. It's as if you've stepped into a time capsule, a slice of the past preserved in the present. The air is thick with nostalgia, the sounds of the past echo around you. The clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages, the crackle of a gramophone, the chatter of people discussing events that, to you, are ancient history. You're a stranger in a strange land, an anachronism in a world that's not your own. And then, when you leave, you find that you can't return. The road that led you there has vanished, the landmarks are gone, and the map shows you only the familiar contours of the present. It's as if this place was a mirage, a dream, a bubble in the fabric of time. This is a time-slipped location, a pocket of the past or future that exists in the present. It's a sign that you've not just traveled in space, but in time. In our number 6 spot today, we have Unexplained Absences. One moment, you're sipping your morning coffee, and the next, you're staring at a sunset. Hours have passed in the blink of an eye, or perhaps you're at a party and suddenly it's the next day, or the next week, or even the next year. You've lost time. Not just a few forgettable minutes, but significant chunks of your life. These aren't just just gaps in your memory, they're unexplained absences, periods of time that you've seemingly just skipped over. It's as if you've hit the fast forward button on your life, bypassing hours, days, or even years. You have no recollection of what happened during that time, no sense of having lived through those missing moments. At first, you might dismiss these episodes as blackouts, the result of stress or fatigue, but as they become more frequent and more pronounced, another explanation begins to take shape. Could these be time jumps? Could you be spontaneously leaping forward in time, living out your life in a non-linear fashion? It's a very concerning thought, but in a universe where time travel could be possible, it is a possibility that we just can't ignore. If you're losing time in this way, you might be a time traveler, skipping through the timeline like a stone across the water. In our number 5 spot today, we have phantom media. Okay, so picture this. You have a vivid memory of a movie you watched as a child. You can recall the plot, you can quote lines, even describe scenes in detail. But when you try to find it, there's no trace of it anywhere. It's not in any database, not on any streaming platform, not in any dusty corner of a video rental store. It's just as if the movie never existed. Or perhaps it's a song that's stuck in your head, a catchy tune from a band you used to love, but when you hum the melody to your friends, they just look at you blankly. There's no record of the song or the band anywhere. It's likely they've just been erased from history. This phenomenon, also known as the Mandela Effect, is more than just faulty memory. It's a collective misremembering of events or facts named after the widespread false memory of Nelson Mandela's death in prison in the 1980s. But what if it's not just misremembering? What if it's a sign that you've experienced alternate timelines? That you've lived in a reality where these movies, songs, and TV shows do exist? It's a mind-bending possibility, but in a universe where time is not as linear as we think, it's a possibility that is definitely worth considering. In our number 4 spot today, we have historical doppelgangers. Imagine leafing through a dusty old book or scrolling through an online archive and coming across a portrait that stops you in your tracks. The person in this image isn't just familiar, they're identical to you. The same eyes, the same smile, the same birthmark on the cheek. It's as if you're looking at a mirror image of yourself, but the date on the portrait is from a century ago. Or perhaps it's a photograph from a newspaper clipping, a face in the crowd that bears an uncanny resemblance to your own. The same scar on the forehead, the same mismatched eyes, the same distinctive jawline. It's you, but the newspaper is dated 50 years in the future. These aren't just coincidences or cases of mistaken identity. These are historical doppelgangers, echoes of yourself in the annals of time. It's as if your past or future self has left a trace in history, a footprint in the sands of time. Could this be a sign of time travel? Have you in some inexplicable way left your mark on an era that you've never lived in? It's a tantalizing thought, one that challenges our understanding of time and also identity. In our number 3 spot today, we have quantum entanglement. Imagine feeling a connection with someone that transcends the ordinary. It's not just empathy or intuition, it's a bond that defies the laws of physics. You share thoughts, emotions, even physical sensations, no matter how far apart you are. It's as if you're two halves of the same whole, two particles spinning in perfect synchrony. This is quantum entanglement, a phenomenon where two particles become so deeply linked that they affect each other instantaneously, regardless of the distance between them. It's one of the most mysterious and fascinating aspects of quantum physics, a testament to the interconnectedness of the universe. But what if this entanglement isn't limited to particles? What if it can occur between people? Between timelines? What if your deep, inexplicable connection with someone is a sign that your timelines are intertwined? Perhaps you've met in a different era, shared experiences in a different timeline. Perhaps your lives are entangled in the vast web of time, echoing each other across the stage. It's a mind-bending concept, but you know, in a universe where time travel could be possible, it's a possibility that we just can't ignore. If you're experiencing quantum entanglement, you might be a time traveler, your life a tapestry woven with the threads of time. In our number 2 spot today, we have time travel dreams. Imagine drifting off to sleep and finding yourself in a different era. You're not just dreaming, you're living in another time. You're walking down cobblestone streets, hearing the clamor of a medieval marketplace, feeling the rough texture of a toga against your skin. You're interacting with people participating in events, even experiencing the emotions of the time. These aren't just ordinary dreams. They're very vivid, realistic, and immersive. You can smell the smoke from the blacksmith's forge, taste the sweetness of a Victorian tea cake, feel the adrenaline rush of a chariot race. You're not just a passive observer, you're an active participant in the tapestry of history. And when you wake up, the dream doesn't fade away like most dreams do. Instead, you're left with a lingering sense of displacement, as if you've just returned from a long journey. You feel a strange nostalgia for a time you've never lived in, a yearning for people you've never met. These time travel dreams could be more than just dreams. They could be memories, echoes of your past or future lives. They could be a sign that you've traveled through time and that your soul has journeyed through the ages. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have time-sensitive conditions. Imagine waking up one day and looking in the mirror to find an old man or woman staring back at you. Your skin is wrinkled, your hair is gray, and your body feels heavy with the weight of years. But just yesterday, you were young. This isn't just aging, this is rapid aging, a sudden leap forward in time. Or perhaps it's the opposite. You're stuck in time, your body refusing to age. Years, even decades pass by, but you remain the same. You're an eternal youth in a world that's constantly changing. Or maybe you're afflicted with a sleeping beauty syndrome, a condition where you sleep for years at a time. You could close your eyes for a night's rest and wake up to find that the world has moved on without you. These conditions could be medical mysteries, unexplained phenomena that baffle doctors and scientists, but they could also be side effects of time travel. They could be signs that your body is not just moving through space, but through time. So maybe if you're experiencing these time-sensitive health conditions, consider this. You might be a time traveler, your body bearing the physical toll of your temporal journeys.